The entire English syllabus, stage 6, paper 1, paper 2, the modules, the area of study are all about the human condition. And I'll go back to what I started with. Hamlet quote, "What piece of work is a man?" Or a woman for that matter. So start to think about what I learned about being human, and this will be so easy for you. So if I were to put all that together in a diagram, we start at the center with the context, values and assumptions of an individual and their perspectives. So that's both you, for example, the composer, and the characters or the persona in the world of a text. So once you've got that individual or that composer, what do they then discover or rediscover? And what is their initial response? For example, a scientist, it could be intellectual. For a character, it might be an emotional response. And then it might, or a physical, and then it might become one that's spiritual. So think about how a character responds to the discovery. Once that discovery happens, we move up to the next part of the rubric. It's questioned and challenged even by the individual, or by the responder, by yourself. Can even be viewed from another perspective. So how you see the world, for example, if I would take the Tempest again, Gonzalo is so glad to survive and get to the island that he talks about how beautiful it is and how lush the grass is. But in fact, Antonio, who's the absolutely negative cynic, he actually just talks about how it's brown and it smells. He has a different attitude. So think about in your text, do you have that challenge or questioning from another perspective, or in your own creative writing? Once that happens, you then move to the next layer, because either it'll affirm or challenge your assumptions and beliefs. So it might be that once you've made that discovery, you think this about a situation or an individual, and then it either affirms what you've always believed, or it challenges what you've always believed. Once you get to that point, it's either you walk away from it, or you learn from it. And that's when we get to ramifications and transformation. So finally, what a lot of those texts are about is about the transformative understanding of the self and the world because of that discovery. Now, if you think of this diagram, it is so easy to engage with the rubric. It actually makes sense to put it all together and synthesize it, rather than trying to see it as separate paragraphs. This diagram looks incredibly confusing, but it's not. This is reader reception theory, which is what you're doing in English, stage 6. It is about how we respond to texts and take meaning from them and why. So in the middle, we've got assumptions about discovery from the composer, and we've got his or her representation through the text. Remember, discovery is an artificial lens being placed by the Board of Studies over the top of the text. No composer started out with this. This has been put there for you now to look as a lens at the text. But let's go over to the side and look at the composer themselves. Remember what I've said earlier, their context, perspectives, influence, how they write, how they see the world, and when they compose a text. But there's another factor that's not in the rubric, but it's in the syllabus rubric. So what I've dealt with is the prescriptions. This is now the actual syllabus itself. And perception is interesting. It's not only about the way we see the world in our perspective, but it's also based on our memories and our senses. Have you ever been in a place where you feel uncomfortable and you discover something maybe you're not really happy about? And when you make that discovery, you remember the smells and the sounds around you. It might be that there's very little light in the room. And when you walk away from that discovery, how you respond, you will remember that particular smell or that particular sound at that moment in time. All of these factors make us who we are as human beings. They're all about our senses and our perspectives. So that composer is going to bring meaning to the text itself. They only have a purpose, an audience, and a meaning. But look on the other side. When I went to school, we just studied the text and the text was it. You didn't challenge. But you get the right to do this. You get the right to engage and analyse and deconstruct a text. So now we have you, the responder. And the same thing now happens. What's your perception? What's your context and perspectives? And then do you accept the meaning that the composer conveys to you? Or are you in fact slightly resistant and you need to think why?